Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the work session for November 5th, 2019. Let the record reflect that all members of the council are present, save Mr. Garrett and Ms. Malcolm. Move to the city administrator update, Mr. Probst.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick couple points here. We've recently gotten to closeout phase of the West Spring Street project. We'll be working on the punch list items with the contractor and then wrapping that project up, long overdue. North Broad is heading towards the same status right now to close out. There's a walkthrough tomorrow to get that going along with the punch list, and we'll be finishing that up. Lights are being installed this week and next, and that one is rapidly coming to a close as well.
Perfect, thank you. Are there any questions? Moving to central services update, Mr. Bailey.
Kind of quick. The Plaza Police Station renovation is set to go out for bid on Monday, the 11th, so almost a little less than a week now. The bids will be submitted on the 20th of December, and that gives us a little bit of extra time to kind of evaluate during the holidays, and then too, we figured nobody's going to start construction at that time of the year. And I'll have it back before you, I believe, on January 7th, I think is our first meeting in 2020. So we'll be glad to get that started and see kind of what it's going to cost us. From facilities and grounds side, we've managed to get all the trees downtown trimmed, I think, about 2 hours before they started putting lights up. So timed that pretty good. All the planters were changed out downtown today. Had my guys go through and remove everything that was already existing, which actually held up pretty good this year. So fall flowers will be in. And then the only other thing I had was the next newsletter goes out December 2nd for the winter months. It'll have all of our Christmas activities and stuff going on first part of the year. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
Anyone have any questions or comments? Hearing none, thank you, Mr. Bailey. To committee information, Mr. Adcock, Finance.
Thank you, Mayor. Ms. Thompson will give the finance report.
Thank you, Mr. Adcock. You have before you the financial status report as of September. As of September, we should be around 75% utilization. The general fund expenses are at 79%. Utilities are at 72%, and solid waste at 73%. So those are all trending as budgeted. We have started receiving the new SPLOST funds several months ago, and those are trending as budgeted as well. We've also just started receiving the 2019 property tax payments. And Finance Department has been working on the 2020 operating and CIP budgets. We have that budget workshop meeting this Thursday night or Thursday afternoon at 7 o'clock. And the only other thing is the cashier area construction. If any of you have been in the lobby recently, you've noticed that we're going to be redoing the cashier station area, and that should start in the next month or so get that completed. If you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Are there any questions or comments? Thursday's budget meeting is
2 o'clock.
2 o'clock. Okay. Thank you. Airport, I'm going to jump in on this and say, Mr. Bailey.
Thank you, sir. Fuel sales held pretty consistent month of October. The numbers, the 92 transactions, that's about a week old, I guess, based on the way we have to report and get everything submitted. Big thing I wanted to talk about was, I know we have the budget and CIP stuff going on this Thursday, and in there we had a crack seal that we were actually awarded in a TA letter back in April for, I think it was like $87,000. We're going to change that and do a full runway rehabilitation project. So we'll pave the entire runway, but that won't be done until 2021 based on the way the state funding is going to work. So we'll replace that crack seal project with an actual design project for the full runway rehabilitation. And it'll only change at about $7,000 for the total project costs, which equates to about $300 or $400 additional for us. So I went ahead and told them to proceed, assuming we could probably do that. But that will get us essentially a runway paved that'll be intact and good for probably 15, 20 years, maybe, and restripe, renumber, everything. So So it'll be a good project, probably a rather costly one. But the way funds will work out, we should be at like a 95-5 match. So shouldn't be too bad. Shouldn't be a whole lot more than what we just undertook with the apron as far as cost to us. So
Are the pilots good with waiting till that 2021? I mean, I know they went yesterday, but
yeah, they'll just have to be.
realistically, there's
Yeah.
not gonna be any safety issues.
Right, and that's the thing. I mean, we can either come out of pocket with millions of dollars, or we can wait a year and come out of pocket with a couple $100,000.
Wait a year.
Yes. So that was the decision we decided with.
Are there any questions for Mr. Bailey? Any additional information you wanted to say?
Got it. Thanks.
Sounds good. Thank you, sir. Moving to Public Works, Mr. Dickinson.
Mr. Smith, solid waste report.
Thank you, Mr. Dickinson. Just want to highlight the transfer station report tonnage. We collected 5,965 tons. We were a little down from August, but we had an increase compared to September last year, over 1,000 tons. We will extend the hours to 5 o'clock the remainder of the year, mainly because of the holidays. We did generate a surplus of $5,400, over $400 for the month of September, and the year-to-date, we've generated surplus of over $32,000 at this point. Transfer station projects hasn't been in activity, so we don't have anything to report on the projects. We did put the automated truck in service on yesterday. Got off to a little bit of a slow start, had a couple glitches, but at midday, it smoothed out, and the operator did a really good job for his first time operating it. We appreciate that. It kind of knocked us off about 2 hours off our schedule. So there was some picked up early this morning for the ones that didn't get collected yesterday, but we do anticipate us being on schedule, and it'll improve each week. The only other thing I got is the holiday schedule. Want to make note of it. We're gonna, 2 days gonna be off schedule. On November 26th, Monday customers will be collected. November 27th, make sure I got this right. I'm sorry, November 25th is a Monday. Monday customers will be collected. Tuesday, November 26th. Tuesday and Wednesday customers will be collected. We'll service the Thursday customers on Wednesday. So there will not be any collection on Thursday, 28th, and Friday, November 29th. And I believe these are put in the bill insert, so customers did get a copy.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Smith.
Questions?
No questions. Mr. Still, Streets and Transportation.
Thank you, Mr. Dixon. Just looking over the report, I'll be glad to take any questions for that, but I'll just highlight a couple of things we got going on right now and a couple of things we got coming up. Our street crews currently, along with some of the central services guys, have been putting up the Christmas lights in Childers Park. If you hadn't seen that, won't be too long, you'll be able to see it from a long ways off. It's gonna be really, really, really bright and beautiful in there. But that has been an undertaking. Those guys are working hard to get it up. We got about another week, probably 3 solid days, and we should have everything up. If you hadn't seen them, they're a lot bigger than you would anticipate them being. Some of them are 45 feet tall by 60 feet wide. Mr. Probst can attest to that. I think he's had his dealings with them in previous endeavors, but it is we may have got a late start on it, to be honest. We feel rushed doing it. So next year we may start in September versus October to go ahead and make sure we got it like we want it. But it's gonna be really, really, really beautiful. Looking forward to seeing that. The guys been working hard on that. Outside of that, general maintenance to some road and right-of-ways, trying to get ready for some of this cold weather. We're anticipating, the winter weather coming in with this cold snap, that we'll start seeing some stuff that needs to be repaired, and as that comes in, we'll take care of that. The only other thing I got to add is we'll start running the leaf truck within the next couple of weeks, so you'll see it out and about. As the leaves continue to come down and get to the curb, we'll make sure the truck gets out there, and it'll run the weekly route as it does from now until probably March. So I'll be glad to take any questions.
All right, no questions. Let's move to the action item, which is the LMIG.
Yes, sir. This is, what you have before you is the 2020 LMIG application. We've decided to go with South Madison Avenue this year. There's already going to be some significant projects in that area of town through the utilities with the CDBG project. South Madison Avenue from Spring Street all the way out to Highway 11 South by the county jail is in need of an overlay and some deep patching. We figured it would be a great time to really revamp that area and knock out another big collector street from the city as we've paved. And you'll see in the other packet, the 2019 final project wrap-up sheets behind it as well. But in the last 2 years, we've paved almost 4 miles of collector streets, which is 2 of the most heavily traveled streets in the city. 19's turned out very well, and I'm anticipating 2020 being the same way. So we're asking for approval of the 2020 LMIG application, which is a DOT project. We get $174,880.88 from the state, and our match is 30%, which is $52,464.26, and that'll be funded through SPLOST. So it is a 70-30 match. Just asking for your approval on that.
All right, are there any questions for
Jeff,
Mr.
I
Still?
can ask, I'm just curious on, is there a reason why it's not doing all of Madison Avenue? I mean, North Madison is a pretty short stretch comparatively speaking. Is there a reason not do the entire street?
The PCI, the pavement condition index for North Madison is higher than what it is for South Madison. And with that being said, what we have allotted for this specific LMIG money is a specific amount of money, which will cover roughly 1.89, sometimes 2 miles, depending on the width of the road and the way it measures up and adds up. That section will be what we can cover through the LMIG program.
And the second question is, do we anticipate the joint work with the county on this?
I hope so.
I certainly hope so. We'll have to get an IGA in place this go-around, but we have plenty of time to do it this time. We didn't do an IGA last time. It was kind of a gentleman's agreement between us and the county, but it shouldn't be an issue. It's part of the SDS program now.
All right, are there any other questions? All right, if not, I need a motion.
Move to approve the 2020 LMIG application as presented.
Motion by Mr. Little, need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Adcock. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the question. All in favor state aye. Any opposed? That passes unanimously, Mr. Mayor. For the
Sir, thank you, everybody.
Well, while we're on the streets, I do have one question, probably more for Logan. But do we have an update on the signage change at Church Street in South Madison?
Yeah, so we're trying to wait until we get into that Town Green project because a lot of that's going to be dependent on moving the electric lines as far as the undergrounding, et cetera. Didn't really want to go through some added cost with all of that until we get there, if that makes sense.
Everything else is done except for McDaniel and
I think that's the only one that we lack the intersection changes on.
is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
We did the four-way at Breedlove and Alcovey.
Yeah.
Was most recent, right? Mr. Little, utilities, please.
Thank you, Mayor. First item is the monthly electric and telecom report. Mr. Thompson.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Some items of interest for this month. We have a pre-construction meeting with the contractor for the Spring Street project next week. We anticipate them starting the first or second week of December and relocating those electric lines from Highland all the way to Breedlove. North Madison is nearing final design, and once that's done, we'll get with Chris's staff and we'll bid out that construction. Our pole inspection is nearly complete, And, you know, we shoot for a 0 reject rate. We started pole inspections in 2006 with about a 19 to 20% reject rate. We're down to 4%. And we only had 2 dangers, and both of those have been addressed. All of our trucks go through 2 inspections a year. One is structural and one is insulation. They all pass the insulation test with very few repairs, minor repairs. Facebook will be speaking at our FNA meeting. FNA is an organization we're a member of, and their head of network collaboration will be speaking at that next week. If you've been up and down 78, you've noticed their new network. All those orange pipes being put in the ground are going all the way to the Facebook site. And if you go south of Social Circle, you'll see a bunch of orange pipes going that way. They're building their own loop. They created their own company called Middle Mile to provide their own fiber. And we should have a little more information about that. That network runs right next to us. We really hope we can get into it and get another path out of town. Also, we have community Wi-Fi test is ongoing. We've got 3 devices running. I've sent all council members and department heads the password to that. Try it, use it, let me know how you feel about it. We should have some pricing for next month to cover the whole 2 or 3 block area of downtown. To let you know how much building's going on, for the past 3 or 4 months, we've had north of 700 locates every month. That's 700 times somebody's called in that they're digging in the ground in our service territory. So that's a good many. And that's all I have, sir.
Thank you, Brian. Are there any questions?
The new power lines run down Spring Street.
Yes.
What do we decide with the poles?
It's the ductile iron.
Ductile iron, okay.
They should be showing up at the end of this month. And once everything else is here, or close to here, and once they show up, we'll start construction.
You pretty much guarantee 0 failure rate on those.
If you run into them with a tractor trailer, maybe, but they're gonna be 12 feet off the road, so I'm not too worried about them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Middlebrooks, the monthly water, sewer, gas, and stormwater report.
Thank you, Mr. Little. Just a couple updates on some projects. Natural gas, we've got the Grand Haven and the Creekside subdivision. We've already started Grand Haven, which should start Creekside probably in the 1st of December now. As far as collection system goes, they're currently installing the sewer on Millage Avenue, and we just completed the 2nd Street sewer rehab. The 2018 CDBG, we've had the pre-construction meeting on it. They're looking to start right after Thanksgiving, and so we'll be knocking that one out here pretty quick. And then water distribution, a couple main extensions out in the county. First one for Wall Road's finished. We're on the 2nd one now, and then we'll move over to Dewey Hogan. And then had 2 CIP purchases for the month of October, one being the excavator and the other one being the lime slurry system for the wastewater treatment plant. If you got any questions, I'll be more than happy to try to answer them.
Thank you, Rodney.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's all we got.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Bradley, Public Safety?
Yeah, Chief Owens has our fire department report.
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Before y'all have the numbers for September. It's pretty standard as usual. Last month was Fire Prevention Month for us, and it was a huge success. We went throughout the community. We had over 15 public education events that we attended. With that, we had over 2,000 contacts with children and over 1,000 with adults. So very much success on that. As we move into November, now that it's finally cooling off, we're going to do all of our live fire training and that we have to do every year with the firefighters. And then we're fixing to start hose testing as well. We have to test all of our hose every year. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. The police, Chief Watts?
Thank you, Mr. Bradley. Been a busy month in September. Officers did respond to 1,623 calls for service for that month. They performed 2,888 area checks. One of the things I do want to note, as I do each month, is in the Part 1 crime area. in 2019. Right now, as we stand, we're 22% down to where we were in 2018, so that's a huge win for us there. We made a total of 47 adult arrests, 2 juvenile, and participated in 5 community events. And another thing I wanted to note here was that joint operations unit that we did implement this year has been very proactive in getting aggressive with the drug dealings that's been going on in the city here. For September, they ended up executing a total of 3 search warrants. They made a total of 14 arrests, and majority of those arrests are possession with intent charges and firearms charges. And one significant one out of that they caught was a suspect that was in connection with 1 drive-by shooting and 1 robbery in Covington, Georgia. So the unit is doing exactly what we designed it to do, and it's making a big impact out here on the streets. And I'll be glad to answer any questions.
You said 22% reduction in,
In 19, we're 22% down from where we were in 2018 Part 1 crimes, which is your more serious crimes, your armed robbery, ag assaults.
thank you.
And we do have one action item from the police department on some out-of-state training. Chief Watts, can you explain that?
Yes, sir. What this is a basic narcotics investigation class that's held in Meridian, Mississippi at the Naval Air Station area. It's a regional counter-drug training. It's at no cost to the agency whatsoever for the class. It's a pretty well-known training facility. We've been using it for 20 years. And what we want to do is send 2 of our officers that is in that joint operations units that's pretty new to working narcotics to that class, and it's going to update them on, how to manage cases, case law, things of that, and performing their duties a lot better than what they know. And it's only going to cost us a total of, I believe, $100 per diem is the cost that's coming out of our pocket on that.
And I appreciate the fact that we have continuing education for the officers on things like this.
Yes, sir.
Anybody have any questions concerning this travel? Do I hear a motion?
I'll move we approve the out-of-state training.
Motion to have a second? I'll second it. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Pass, we'll present that to the council. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, sir. Moving to planning and code, as Ms. Malcolm isn't here, I'll refer to Mr. Stone.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just like to point out a few items for your situational awareness. The new businesses, we had 8 this month and 2 closed business. However, one of them that was closed was just a change of ownership, which is Just Wings located, so really 7 and 1 if you want to look at it that way. Major projects, Silver Queen, if you notice, they're doing some of the curb and gutter, finishing up the building, looking at possibly opening sometime the first of the year. And I'd like to bring your attention to also the 1190 West Spring Street dentist office. It's really turned out to be a very nice building and a very nice layout on Spring Street in that location. As far as the city marshal's concerned, we had 67 signs removed from the roadway, with 220 repair cleanup orders and re-inspections, investigated 4 utility tamperings and theft cases, and 9 citations issued. You can look at the balance of the sheet. At this time, it's pretty self-explanatory. If you have any questions, I'll be happy to entertain. Thank you.
Any questions, comments? I was waiting for Ms. Malcolm to refer to me. Sorry. Moving to economic development, Mr. Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mr. Crosby, would you like to join us for our economic development report?
Thank you. You have the report before you with some pictures from Fall Fest, and those are taken by Mr. Martin Bozone, who's doing the photography for us for marketing purposes. We had a great day, Fall Fest, our last farmers market, wonderful event, a lot of great support from other city departments to get us ready for that. Also, the Art Center, the picture in that bottom right corner, they're doing Saturday soirees events. They have one this weekend. It's a chili cook-off, I believe, but they always have a craft. They have some live music and some other their programs featured. Actually, that second page of the report, that's a flyer that I wanted you guys to be aware of. This Georgia Writers Project was put together by a local member of the Art Center. It has high school students that are coming together in a writing club, writing pieces, and they've gotten a grant to bring in these successful authors to judge a writing contest, to do readings with these students. It's a really cool program. Jessica Hudgens has coordinated it. We're partnering with them to help promote it. It's just an incredible opportunity for these students to have exposure to some successful literary people in their world. So we're excited that that's coming. One event was last night, another one's coming up in December. Stroke of Hope, the fall workday that I told you guys about last month, got delayed because of rain. They finally got out there, and we did a workday this past Saturday on 3 homes. The homeowners were very excited. It's a little more work to wrap it up and finish, but one lady that we helped on West Creek Court, she has lived in that home for 48 years and still owns it today. And she's just an older grandma that has her kids a lot, her grandkids there a lot. So they were out there painting and helping with us, but it's just wonderful to help those citizens keep their homes up and stay in that property for many, many years and have that to pass on to the next generation. I have a list there of a number of businesses that have opened or expanding or about to open. Hodgepodge should open, was supposed to open this past weekend in their new location, expanded it at Walton Mill. There's another event space opening at Walton Mill. Ebb Flow Yoga is opening up another location that has been finalized since I did this report. And Wingfoot Running is celebrating their 1-year anniversary this Saturday. So they'll have a lot of activities and giveaways, and you can buy some fall running gear to keep running. And as you can see, our events are about to really pick up. We're really excited about Children's Light displays and the parade coming up. Applications are coming in. We do holidays like nobody else around here, so that's getting in gear. We're excited about it. Lots of good things going on. Be happy to answer any questions you have.
I just want to echo the things that people have been talking about a lot lately, but it seems like I can't go anywhere without somebody bragging on downtown, so keep that up and thank you, because it's awesome.
Yes, of course, thanks.
Anybody else? All right, thanks, Ms. Crosett. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, sir. Moving to Parks, Ms. Crawford.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Nothing in your packet, just a couple notes I wanted to put out there. As you know, I've been working with the county on eventually taking back the balance of the parks that were on lease. They're on a 20-year lease with the county. So as such, at the end of the year, if they do formally hand those over, and I believe they plan on doing that, I'll be working with Mr. Bailey on a transition and maintenance plan to essentially make them to where, you know, it's a place you want to be, fix the potholes, you know, just repair some of the more broken pieces of equipment, just the basic safety concerns that we may have in some of these parks that have been kind of let go over the last few years. So we'll be working on that in Q4 and Q1 of 2020. We've put in the application for the Town Green and Rails to Trails project through the Department of Natural Resources. We hope all that comes together and we get that award. That'll be a rather large award to get this project really rolling. We feel pretty confident about it. And the last thing is the Athens Tech project. We talked about that, I believe, back in May. We'll be working on that. I'll be getting together some of the Public Works crews once they finish the Christmas decor on how we can go ahead and start at least phase 1 of just kind of the cleanup of the property and taking down some of the derelict buildings and just, again, getting it to a safe level, usable level for our populace. That's all I have, Mayor. Ms. Crawford.
Childers Park, the stream rehab, is that?
Yeah, so we have the permit there through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Thank Mr. Stone for getting all that through the machine. And then hopefully we'll be starting that work early in 2020. Should be a relatively low-cost project, high impact out there.
I'll quit asking.
Yeah, that's okay, not a problem.
Thanks. I'm just excited. I think it's
The
awesome.
grant that we applied for, is it just for downtown or for other parks as well?
This one alone, it's for the Town Green and potential Rails to Trails, so using that as a connector for all of our parks, essentially, is our goal. When we master planned everything, we want to eventually link all of our parks through sidewalks or whatever it may be, but this part would be taken over the rail area down Davis Street, and incorporating that back into town, for that area. And then the money we've already spent on the, environmental rehab and purchase of the property can be counted towards this grant, so we don't have any, further outlays on that property.
And that will allow us to once we do that, that'll allow us to take that money that we had intended to spend there to go ahead and bump that out to our additional parks. Do you, and I know we've discussed it, but it helps as a reminder, just our goals, downtown Green first, Childers.
Well, so, yeah, this was coming from this body, as a policy vision, kind of working our way from the inside out would be the most expedient thing to do, the easiest thing to do, because right now, the parks that are closer in town are under our control. And as I said earlier, the county still has some of these other parks on the periphery on lease. So we haven't really been able to do much with those yet, but we will. And we'll be looking for more grant opportunities in the future for all of these, not just the ones in town. I think Matthews has some really good vision behind what we want to do out there, and I think it could really be a good project showpiece in the future.
Based off what all these new companies are looking at when they're moving, relocating, building new facilities, is there a way to do it all at one time?
Show me the money.
But it's a nice goal.
We'll do as much as we possibly can, of course.
I understand if you do the rails thing, which would go down South Madison, basically. So you could have a connection to Cocoa, for example.
Yeah, so there could be,
Hook into the rails things if we did a Cocoa-Field and Park, to connect back into town.
right, what we're looking at along the trail is various nodes, I guess you could call them. That could be little outlets to different other parks or other businesses along the way. So it's not just a linear park system.
That's what I'm saying,
It'll
some of
branch
the
off.
parks that
That's right.
Crawford referred to, for example, we go on out South Madison, we can connect to that trail.
Yeah, we could look for little outlet nodes that could cut back across South Madison, in that vicinity.
Perfect.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Moving to items for discussion, we have an application for spirituous liquors and beer and wine on-premise consumption from Silver Queen. Mr. Stone?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have processed the paperwork for the alcohol license and sent it to legal.
Thank you. Are there any questions, comments? Hearing none, application for beer and wine on-premise consumption, Just Wings of Georgia. Again, Mr. Stone.
Yes, we have processed the paperwork for the alcohol license for Blessed Manna Food LLC, and the paperwork's been sent to legal.
Thank you. Are there any questions about either of those? Hearing none, we do have one item requiring action tonight. Mr. Russell, Health and Ancillary Insurance, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. It's health insurance time. And unfortunately, it's always a topic that you have to talk about with two sides, right? The first is the expense. The expense is real. And then the second side is if you didn't have it, there'd be people out there that were hurting. So first of all, I want to thank everybody for considering the health insurance for our employees. We've had a couple of bad claims this year, or large claims, that have put a ding, I would guess is the best way to say it, in our plan this year. If we look at it, though, it's performing like you would expect a plan to perform. We're going to come in at about 71 or 75% of expected claims. Typically, when you structure a plan, you're trying to hit in the 80% corridor on your expected claims. So even though we've had a couple of large claimants this year, we're still going to come in okay. But when we went out to renewal, it required that we take a little bit more risk on our plan for this year. So we're going to have two lasers, and Matt Bidwell is going to explain it in just a little bit. We're going to have two lasers this year because we've got two large claimant potentials for the next year. So we'll be lasering a $350,000 laser and a $185,000 laser. So a couple of big ones there. But we don't expect that they'll hit that. Typically what we see is that the insurance companies, the reinsurance companies, are putting those lasers way high so that they don't take as much risk. We take the risk. But fortunately, we've seen those claims come in much lower than that, probably in the 70% range. So again, Matt's going to go through that in just a minute. Just a couple of things to remember. First of all, we are coming off of a 9-month period for the plan. We adjusted it so that we could go into a yearly annual plan. So we'll start on January 1st, and this plan will go through December 31st. I point that out because of the numbers that you're going to hear. May sound like they're a little bit off, but you're looking at 9 months versus a 12-month projection. So just keep that in mind as we talk about these numbers. We made a commitment that we were going to try to hold the line on the contributions for the employees. I'm proud to announce that we won't be raising any of the premiums for the employees this year. Everything will be absorbed by the plan. And the expected increase on the dental plan. The dental plan was one plan that we couldn't control for another year. They had guaranteed us a contract for 2 years. It is going to go from $26.16 to $27.80 for the employee portion of the dental plan. With that, I think I'll just turn it over to Matt, let him go through the presentation.
Good evening, everybody. If I can get this thing to work, we'll be halfway there. Wonderful. I always like to remind people where we were the last time I was here, and this was in February, March we were here, and we were talking about the April insurance renewal. And at the time, we decided to change the insurance, so it was going to renew January 1. We're just on record, 70% of all employers renew their insurance January 1. At the time we made the move, we made some changes on the plan. We'd had number of different types of deductions that the employees were exposed to. If you were tobacco, if you were wellness, different levels of non-wellness. And so what was done is that we made all the employee deductions a uniform deduction, period. So if you're covering a family, you're paying the same as anybody else covering their family. But what we did is we took the deductible on the plan, which was a $500 deductible, and we increased it up to $1,750. And if an employee participated in the wellness plan, meaning they didn't use tobacco, their cholesterol was controlled, their blood pressure was controlled, if they hit all the levels, they got back to a $500 deductible. And so it was if you work hard, you take care of yourself, you do the things that we need you to do, then you did not see an increase on your deductible. And that was really the model we changed to. And this here outlines the changes. So in a nutshell, that's what we did in April. The policy was set up for 9 months. I don't want to show this slide now, but that's what I got up here. I'm sorry. Let's get this over with. Going into 2020, we're only asking for one change under the plan, and this change is more of an administrative change. I don't know how many times you've gone to the doctor or hospital, and you're having surgery, you're having a procedure done, the doctor says pay your deductible, you pay your deductible, and then the claim comes back from the insurance company, and they applied it to the hospital. And then you're sitting there fighting with the doctor to get your money back. So what we're recommending is that we no longer have a deductible on any physician charges when they're done in conjunction with a facility charge. So that way, when I go see my doctor and he says, you're gonna do the surgery, all my charges will go to my co-insurance, and the hospital or the facility is gonna collect the deductible. And so it's basically, it's a no cost to us, but it's gonna make it that much easier when people have surgery, when they have a procedure done, because you are going to hit that deductible under the facility charge, and there's no need to try to sit there and put the employee in the middle of trying to guess, who do I really owe the deductible to? And so this is more of an administrative change that we think will make it easy for the employees having claims without a cost associated with this to the city. 2018, 2019, we had our insurance running from April through March. And the purpose I put this slide up here was in the very far right column, you'll see that we had just under 1.6 million in claims. If you move over toward a little bit center, there's a red column that says less spec and reimbursements. And you can see in late 2018, you can see where the claims started to increase. And those red numbers are where our reinsurance started to kick in. And that's in essence is when we started seeing an increase in several large claims that started. And so for that policy year, which ended in March of this year, we were at 71.54% of our actual expected claims. We had just over $112,000 in spec reimbursements, and the total claims paid under the prior year was $1.6 million. So I just wanted to try to give you that in reference of where we're going. Moving into our current year, which is 2019, this policy year began in April and it ends in December. So it's only a 9-month policy year. And if you look at our expected claims, they're running right at 74.54%, which is very good for what we were looking at. But if you look down that red column that says less spec reimbursements, for 7 months, we have $176,000 in claims that have been paid over our deductible limit. And that's because we have several large ongoing claims that are going to continue into 2020, and they have to be taken into account too. So we're actually going to finish up this plan year right on target, but we have several large claims that we're in the midst of that probably will not end till sometime into 2020. And this is going to be reflected on our renewal offer. You can see our actual paid claims through 7 months is just at $1,047,000. We expect that to end up somewhere just under 1.4 million, probably about 1.35 by the end of the year. And again, that's going to be about 75% of what we were expecting. What has happened is that we've had a couple of large claims that our insurance has picked up, but now that the insurance has picked them up, it's going to be reflected next year on the estimates. So let's move into the next year estimates. What we're seeing here is there's no change in our administrative cost, but what you are seeing is that our actual specific insurance, which is in the middle, and I've got it in red, HCC, that's the name of our reinsurer. That's the biggest increase that we're getting, and that's the premiums are going from $132 up to $158, and that is a substantial increase. I think it's about an 18% increase in those premiums, and that was after a lot of jawing back and forth with them. And also, this thing went out to about over a dozen reinsurers, and it still came back that HCC came back with our best numbers. In the bottom in red, we use terminology in the insurance business that sometimes gets us in trouble, and so I'm going to try to clean it up if I may. We currently have specific insurance on every member at the group, and that means that once we get past our specific deductible, then the reinsurance starts paying. And our specific deductible on each member here at the group is $60,000. So that means if I have a heart attack, I'm covered under the city's insurance. I go out and I have a $200,000 claim tomorrow. The $60,000, the first $60,000, the city pays. The other $140,000 gets paid by my reinsurer. So that's the protection we have. When we get the renewal from the insurance plans, they look at our ongoing claims and they make a decision how much in claims is this individual potentially going to have in 2020. And they do one of two things. They can either say, we're going to add that to your premium because it's no longer insurance, we're actually going to be paying a claim, or they can sit there and give that individual a higher deductible. And so for 2020, we have one individual that we feel the claims on it are actually going to fall somewhere in the low 300s. And so they're offering us a $350,000, what they call deductible on that individual. We have another individual that they feel is going to run about $150,000, and so that person has a $150,000 deductible. Those deductibles really work, in essence, to keep our premiums from going up. And those are, it's not like we're, when you know there's going to be a claim, it's no longer insurance. It becomes actually just paying the claim. So we're going to have two exclusions or two higher deductibles on two members in the group. And I want to point out that $225,000 exclusion that we had starting in April, that was actually, for 9 months. It was not a 12-month exclusion. It was actually a 9-month exclusion. And there's a typo there. I had 8, and anyway, it's 9 months. I can't count April. Anyway, so this here puts it more in English. I think this is a little better slide, but I want to show you how it was made. Our current contract is for 9 months. And so starting January 1, it turns into a 12-month contract. The fixed insurance cost, which is for reinsurance, as far as your administrative cost, is going from $142 to $168 per employee. The expected claims are increasing from 777 to 831. And I think if I put my calculator to that, it's just really about a 7% increase in claims to be covered under our policy. You can see the two lasers or higher deductibles noted there. And when you take the fixed and expected claims in column 1, which is our current plan, which is $1.681 million, that is for 9 months. If I use simple math, divide that by 9, take it times 12, that comes out to $2.25 million annually is what our current plan was set up to do. Going into next year, we're seeing that number at approximately $2.4 million, which is about an 8% increase on a 12-month cycle. What was added to it was an additional laser of about $150,000, adjusted for that.
Are we just expecting somebody is going to have a large claim in addition to those two?
It will continue into 2020.
150 and another 150.
Yes. Well, what happens is when you get a claim treatment, it's just uncanny. And most of this is medicines, honestly. And so when we see somebody who's taking a medicine and that medicine's costing $20,000 or $30,000 a month, and we know they're going to take it for another 12 months, it's literally, that's what most of that is. It's not like we know they need another surgery. It's literally the medications is what drives most of this. So we're seeing an increase. We think your fixed and expected cost next year is going to be approximately $2.4 million with the exposures on the additional deductibles, which we refer to as lasers. And I'll come back to this. And the last slide is just the dental. As Les mentioned, the rates have been guaranteed 2 years, and we got a 6.27% increase on it, which annually comes up to about $4,000 a year for the city. And the employees' costs go up fractionally to adjust for it, because the city is covering just the cost of the employee only on the low plan. And so with that being said, I'll be quiet, and I'll put it back on this slide and answer any questions if you all have any.
Russell had said, and I think you covered it here, but I want to be sure. We're not raising premiums on employees. The plan's going to pick up the additional cost.
That is correct.
Okay, so the additional cost, do I understand, you expect it to be somewhere in the $150,000 a year?
Under the insurance, we expect that cost to go up about $200,000, but we also have to account for the policies, those additional deductibles that aren't covered under that. And this laser pointer works. Right here, this is This number here is approximately currently projected about 2.25. It's going to go to about 2.4, but this does not include these additional costs up here. So it is a significant increase here to account for those lasers, but they do have to be accounted for. My guess is this one will probably end up around 300. This one here will probably end up around 150. So we have the cost of the lasers are also tackle into that. And I'm not sure from a budgeting standpoint how to answer that. I'd probably defer that back to
It sounds like it's around $600,000 in budgetary numbers.
Right, so you see, Ms. Thompson and I have been gnawing on these budget figures here. So for 2020, what we are going to propose in Thursday's meeting is about $3.1 million in allocation and health insurance line item, which would help absorb those additional lasers and that little bit of an increase in the premiums.
So that's how much more than we were spending in 2019? I know this is 9 months, but the total of 2019 cost.
It's about $600,000.
About $600,000.
All in all, I mean, it's a numbers game, as Matt can tell you. You know, whether you play around with the lasers or you play around with the premiums, we decided to go with the laser route on these two, which held down the overall premiums, kept that from being passed along to the employees at a huge chunk, and then the city is absorbing a little bit, but it could have been a whole lot worse had we gambled and gone a different direction. So
I'm glad we're not raising on employees, but it just seems like $600,000 the city's gonna have to pick up rather than employees pick up.
And it may be inevitable in the future that if the trend line keeps going this way, of course, the employees are gonna have to step up again. You remember we went up just a little bit last year. So, we're trying to hold the line as much as we can for the employees as well. And of course, our tax and ratepayers who are funding the plan.
Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Bidwell? Any questions or comments for Logan? Any questions or comments for Les? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion. To approve the,
Sorry. To approve the plan as presented here tonight for the renewal of the FY 2020 health insurance plan.
Move to approve.
I have a motion by Mr. Dickinson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Ross Bradley. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries, that passes. Now, prior to, yes, sir?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm flipping page.
Prior to leaving this evening, just wanted to let you know I had a great time in Jekyll Island. I know we have some University of Georgia fans, some who've given me a hard time, one who dressed up in her favorite team colors tonight. And I just wanted to wish you a congratulations and tell you we'll try again next year.
You took it like a real man. And we do have those John Howard Gator Bites over at South on Broad.
And I heard they were excellent, so I'm looking forward to sharing. I need a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
I have a motion by Mr. Ross Bradley, a second. Second by Ms. Crawford. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Good night, everybody. Thank you.